Hello everyone, my name is Lowko and welcome back to another StarCraft video. Now, what I got for you today is a best of 3 series of Zerg versus Protoss. And in game number 1, we are right here on Parasite LE. Spawning here in the bottom right hand corner of the map and playing with the blue Protoss probes. He's from France and he goes by the nickname of PtitDrogo. And his opponent spawning in the opposite corner of the map and playing with the red Zerg drones. Statistically speaking, and I didn't realize this, but apparently statistically speaking, this man is the current rank 4 on the planet, just behind Serral, Maru, and Dark. We have none other than Solar. Alrighty, so here we go. Now Zerg versus Protoss, it's an interesting matchup. The thing is, with the new multiplayer balance patch, the Hydra received a 10% attack speed nerf. It's probably a little bit less, maybe like 9-10%. It's a little hard to say exactly, but there's no denying that the Hydralisk is a little bit weaker. And in particular over in Korea, a lot of the Zerg players were focused on heavy Hydra play. Obviously, we saw Hydraling Bane for a really long time. We saw Roach Hydra, Hydra into Lurkers, Hydra into Quick Hive with Brute Lords. But basically, all of the mid-game strategies were based around the Hydralisk. Now, obviously, with the Hydra being changed quite a bit, you can't really, treat them as that all-round unit anymore. A lot of Zerg players are struggling in this matchup just a little bit, and that actually includes myself as well. I've been trying to climb up on the ladder. I made a video covering it just a couple of days ago, but basically what I'm looking for in this game in particular, and obviously I want to pay attention to what Protoss is doing too, because I do want to start playing some more random too, but I'm really curious to see what Solar has been playing in the new patch, what makes him so successful in ZVP, because he's been climbing up, statistically speaking, right? He's been climbing through the rankings on Aligulek, and that means that he is doing something right. So we'll figure it out together. Quick third hatchery coming up right here for our Zerg player already. Decided to get that one before even starting up the queens. He's going to be able to get himself that link speed, then probably the second queen, and then a couple of Zerglings likely as a follow-up as well. We do now see that Overlord making its way across the map. There's no warp gate research just yet, which immediately indicates to Solar here that it is going to be that quick Stargate. So he should be aware of that fact. But there is now that Stalker first coming up as well, and that does mean that further scouting will right now be denied. Now, speaking of scouting, Drogo, of course, he hasn't sent a probe across the map. Him going for the Stalker first is also... Whoa! You can't do that, mate! You killed... Okay. He just killed a critter. That was completely unnecessary. I'm outraged. I can't believe it. Anyways, with him not sending the probe across the map, and him also not going for the Adept first, it means that he's gonna be really lacking scouting information. Now, this is not something I would advise doing on the ladder, okay? Like, this is a very risky thing to do. Now, he's going up against Solar. Solar isn't really known to go for, like, Roach all-ins in Zerg versus Protoss. But there's no denying that at this point, he would be in a lot of trouble if this is 2-base Zerg, right? At this point, obviously, we know there's a third hatchery, but Drogo is playing completely in the blind. So I already do kind of like this here for Protoss. Rather than playing the matchup, he's playing the opponent. Going, of course, for that Oracle first. I mean... Drogo knows that his opponent is likely aware of the fact that it is going to be that really quick Stargate anyway, so he doesn't care about showing the Oracle. Because his opponent is very good, he's likely gonna have the anti-air defense ready anyway. So instead of that, he decides to go for just a defensive Oracle here, likely transition to watch a really quick third base, and keep that Oracle at home to potentially ward off any kind of early game aggression. It's kind of cool, right? So I want to try and explain this. So here's what happened. Solar scouted with the Overlord, and he saw that there was no warp gate research just yet. If the warp gate is not started up immediately, it almost always means that Protoss is saving their gas to go for the quicker Stargate instead. Now, Drogo knew that Solar knew this. Therefore, he went for the Oracle first defensively, got a 4-minute third up anyway, because he knew he did the damage by just simply forcing out those Spore Crawlers blindly. It's such a cheeky mind game, and it's rather difficult to explain. But I hope I'm doing at least a decent job, because it's so cool to see these small little plays happening in this game. Now the Zerglings are trying to see if they can deal a little bit of damage over at the third base. None of that is really happening, but it shows respect, between the two players. Anyway, now with the double Oracle scouted, we do see that pretty late lair coming up. Pretty late Roach Warren as well. Solar having none of it, just simply droning up extremely rapidly. Look at the worker count here already, right? 62 versus 51. Versus a player who's got 3 chrono boosts spent right here on probes. That is a greedy, greedy Zerg. So Solar definitely not faced in that regard whatsoever. Now, what I'm curious to seeing is what kind of, or what I'm curious to see rather, is what kind of mid-game Solar is planning on. So, okay. He's gonna go for the Spire. Huh. This could obviously be just like a defensive thing to get rid of any potential Warp Prism harass. But at this point, since he saw the double Oracle, I don't really think he's assuming it's gonna be that Archon follow-up. He also knows the timing right here of the 3rd base, so I don't think it's gonna be something along those lines. This could very well be meant as like a really aggressive Mutalisk base style? Curious to see how that's gonna play out. Play out rather. We do obviously see Drogo getting himself that much more standard unit composition up. Now getting himself the robotic facility here as well. He didn't get himself any Immortals just yet. And yeah, okay, I was gonna say there's no Templar Archives built yet either. But he is gonna be able to get all of that started soon after finishing up that 3-base saturation. A couple of probes actually do end up going down. The Zerglings getting a little bit of value. I like this little wall there. Ooh, the one Zealot. Creating a bit of a semi-wall there, and now with a photon cannon coming up, I do think that this is likely going to be shut down. But the Spire is done. Double gases are queued up. Yeah, there we go. 13 Mutalisk. They're coming up right now. Okay. So Mutas, okay. Mutas are really, really good when it comes to harassing, okay? They're really good at killing a mineral line like this in like a blink of an eye. They're not very good, however, at fighting. In particular, against these glowy psionic energy orb-looking things right over here, right? Archons are really, really strong when it comes to dealing splash damage, in particular to units that have a tendency to clump up. Obviously, you can still kind of fight them if you like Magic Box, so you like spread out your Mutalisk, but this is going to be an interesting situation. The Warp Prism, though, should be cleaned up here as well. He's going to continue with the Mutas, by the way. 5 more Mutas coming up. And here's the Magic Box. So Magic Box basically... Oh, God, that's not a Magic Box. There we go. Magic Box basically means that you're spreading around your Mutalisk so they don't clump up too much, and therefore you should be able to pick up a lot of these units with relative ease. Warp Prism will be target fired down right now as well. We do see all of the Stalkers being cleaned up. All of the leftover units, though, don't shoot up. So instead, Drogo is just simply going to right-click on the hatchery. They do have some decent upgrades. +1 melee right here on these links as well as, or on these zealots rather, as well as charge. So they're going to be able to deal quite a bit of damage. But so far, I don't know if that was enough, right? These Mutas are going to be able to clean up everything else. And Solar is still holding down the Mutalisk button. There's another interesting phenomenon that sometimes happened back in like, I don't know, 2011 or so, where Protosses didn't really seem to have an answer to just like 200 supply worth of Mutalisk. Obviously, Phoenixes are really good, but if you have enough Mutas, they can just simply still kill you with the bounce damage. If you just simply never engage the Archons, you can also most definitely... Wow, look at that. Very passive. But if you just simply bypass all of the Archons and just simply go for the counterattack instead, oftentimes the Mutas are capable of killing the opposing player's base before they really get that damage in. Now, this is interesting, though. He's still gonna try and see if he can deal some damage here. A couple Phoenixes are out right now as well. 2 Archons do end up falling, but Phoenixes, of course, are perfectly capable of chasing down Mutas because they can dash and shoot at the exact same time. He's gonna continue with Mutalisk. I'm excited to see how this is gonna play out. Love these little Zealot run-bys. These little Zealot run-bys really are preventing a lot of that gas mining, so Solar can't really get himself the massive amount of Mutas that he likes to just yet. We did now finally see a Roach switch coming up as well after the double Stargate has begun producing those Phoenixes. Is there Storm available? Okay, there's no Storm. So Drogo did not get himself the Psionic Storm upgrade just yet. I always kind of feel like, though, if you're going Mass Muta, if your Protoss opponent is really good, and Drogo obviously is really good, he should be able to counter it with Phoenixes, then go for Archon into Storm, and that way you can just simply make a really strong Archon-based army, move across the map and kill him before Mutas reach critical mass. He's not actually getting Storm, though. I'm quite surprised by that. I mean, Storm is really good. I don't think I need to point that out to anyone, right? Storm is one of the best spells in the game. These Phoenixes, though. Ooh, not getting themselves their upgrade just yet. There's a Pulse Crystals upgrade over at the Fleet Beacon that allows you to get additional range on the Phoenixes, which absolutely shuts down Mutas. As long as you can get in range with them and just simply chase them down, they can deal a lot of damage. But here we go. This is a curious push here. Drogo does have a lot of anti-air, obviously, in these Phoenixes, as well as a couple of the Archons. But right now, we do not see Solar committing to this army anymore, but instead, he's gonna go for Roaches. Now, beautiful pickup micro there by Drogo, really softening up a lot of those targets. Corrosive Biles are trying to deal whatever damage they can. The Mutas are still being target fired down, though. The Phoenix micro is absolutely on point, and Drogo crushes that army. I mean, sure, he lost a couple Zealots, but he will trade Zealots any day of the week, right? A couple Phoenixes probably ended up going down there as well. Yeah, 4 in total this game. But this is a scary push here. Drogo shoving forward with a really intimidating looking army. He looked at that Muta count. He's like, you know what? I don't need Storm. I'm just going to move forward with the units that I've got left over. Instead, he decided to go for the second Stargate. Starts producing a lot of those Phoenixes. And now with the leftover Zealots and Archons, he is absolutely demolishing this Zerg opponent. Beautiful game there by Drogo, and he will pick up game number 1. Is this the caster curse that I've heard so much about? When you're hyping up one player for a certain set of skills and then they get absolutely demolished? Here I am, Solar, guys, he's been climbing up, he's been doing really well. I'm curious to see what he's gonna do outside of playing Hydras. Goes Mutas, absolutely gets smashed. It's almost like my Letta games right now. Okay. We'll see what he will bring to the table here in game 2. What I have seen Solar play successfully over the last couple of weeks is Swarm Host. He's really, really good at playing Swarm Host against Protoss. We'll see if that's going to be something that he decides to pull out in this series as well. I like the idea of him going for Mutas, but it really didn't seem to really get the traction, right? I guess one of the mistakes, though, that a lot of Protoss may make, and I guess that's what Drogo didn't do wrong in that previous game, right? He shoved at the perfect moment. But I think what a lot of Protoss players will likely do is sit back for too long. They might get themselves Storm, or they might get themselves that Fleet Beacon for the extra Pulse Crystals upgrade, right? And if they push a little bit too late, the Zerg army and the Zerg economy is just going to be too much to beat. Whereas right now, Drogo didn't really lose too much in the grand scheme of things. Sure, he did end up losing those 3 Archons with that little Zealot run by, but it really wasn't that much what he lost there in total. I think he lost like... Well, he actually did lose like 5 Archons. Interesting. What would have happened if Drogo didn't lose those, like... I think he lost 5 Archons, right? 5 Archons and maybe exchanged for like, I don't know, 4 or 5 Mutas? I wonder what would have happened if Drogo did not lose any of those Archons. He would have absolutely smashed that army, right? Near the end there. Alright, anyways. New game, Loco. We're on Kairos Junction LE. This map is pretty cool, actually. I've been liking this map a lot. So if you have a look right here on the Protoss side of the map, this third base over here is really cool. So you've got these rocks that are destructible, and once the rocks are down, not only do you open up a path over here, you open up another attack path over here too. So you have this whole new section of the map that is really easily accessible. However, early on, since these rocks have quite a bit of hit points, you have only this choke to worry about, as well as this choke right over here. So while the third initially, early on, is pretty hard to access, later on into the game, it's very, very mobile. You can have a lot of cool maneuvering around the map. I really, really like this. There's not a potential third base over here too. Usually this one is taken as a fourth, but, you know, some Zerg players don't really mind, you know, having multiple entrances into their bases. You can take this one a little bit later, or instead of your third base, I suppose. And it really does create this nice, like, section of 5 bases that you can relatively easily take. We'll see where this one is gonna head. Drogo, though, not opening up as greedily here in this match, not going for that Stalker first. He is going to be able to scout around with the first adept to figure out exactly what this Zerg player is going for. He scouted the third base, and everything is looking normal. Once again, looks like Warp Gate upgrade was delayed there. The Overlord is going to fly in right around the 3-minute mark, and it should figure out that indeed it is going to be that really quick Stargate once again from Protoss. One of the main design changes they wanted to go with in the new patch was making it viable for Protoss players to go for something else than a Stargate opener in ZVP. And while you certainly can open Robo, and while you certainly can, you know, go Twilight as well, Starport is just so good, guys. Starport, like, okay, here's the thing about Starport, right? You get really, really good Scout Deny, right? Scout Deny with the Phoenix is really, really important. Secondly, you can go for the Oracle as a follow-up after the Phoenix, use it for Harass, but if you keep it alive, which all top-level Protosses will, you can use it also to take your third base safely. Because early on, there's not really a lot of units from Zerg that shoot up. I mean, they're not gonna, like, queen drop your third base or whatever, right? So if you have the Oracle hovering around the third, you can keep it alive. Plus, later on, you can cast Revelation on a lot of units. You can shut down a lot of aggression early on, and it's just better, right? It's just better. Plus, on top of that, you force still this response, right? Even though Drogo didn't really do any damage there with the Oracle, you can use it to stay alive. You can use it for scouting information. Plus, he already forced a bunch of those Spore Crawlers out. Now, Solar, being the greedy Zerg that he is, completely stopped making a Spore in the natural, apparently. He did that in the previous game, too. When you think about it, I guess the only vulnerable bases are going to be the main and the third, but still, I'd be scared. I've lost 8 drones to this kind of stuff before. Don't want to get into that position. Beautiful play though by Drogo so far. This is like the gold standard. If you're wondering what is the standard in ZVP, well, it's this one right here. We see now that follow-up right here as well with the additional gateways. That is 4 here in total. He's likely gonna go for the War Prism after the Nexus here, and then transition towards Archon drops, or at least something along those lines. There's a lot of variety you have at this point. I think that Archon drops in general are probably the best. He decides to not go Archon drops. I was gonna say, like, that Templar Archives is a little bit late. Instead, he's gonna add on additional gateways and go for the Forge. This is another one of those signs of respect in a way. I always really like the Archon drops because I feel like it deals a lot of damage. But if your opponent is of the caliber of Solar, I guess you can already sort of assume, just like with the Stargate, that it's likely not going to deal any damage. So there's a lot of respect there on both sides, I suppose. Solar, though, just powering out the Roaches right now. He decided to put down a Roach Warren at a very respectable timing there. I think that's like a... What was that? Like a 4.5 minute or so Roach Warren. Immediately did start up the Glial Reconstitution here, as well as... Like, the thing is, right? Solar right now, look at the limited information that he's got because of this Phoenix opener. He saw the timing there of that third base. He knows that was 5 minutes into the game. At that point, the most common follow-up is Archon drops, but there's no Archon drops. So, PtitDrogo is already dealing the damage without actually going Archon drops. And that's all because of the Stargate opener. Like, there's mind games being played here. Like, you know, I'm playing checkers when I play StarCraft, okay? These guys are like, they're playing 4D chess. Solar has recognized now, wait a second, there's no Archon drops. I'm gonna send the Queens across, go for the Roaches here instead and make a big-ass push. This is a really scary army, actually. There is that one Immortal out already. A second Immortal will be joining in just a little bit. Zerglings, ooh, they sneak into the base. That is not a mistake you can make against someone of the caliber of Solar. The Lynx do get in, and that's going to force the warp in over here. That means the third base is going to be in a lot of trouble as well. One of the Immortals already was picked up. The Queen, actually, now also, the Queen's rather joining the fight. And Solar, he just made that look easy. This is the thing, though. If you do go for the Archon drops, right, and you have that Warp Prism across the map, you just simply can continue dealing the damage. I mean, there was never a Warp Prism in this game, and that kind of just allows Zerg to send all of their army across, rather than leaving, like, I don't know, 10 Roaches at home to defend against a potential Warp-in, or 2 Archons. In this case, he just simply, got into the main base there with Zerglings, and he moved across the map with the Queens. Normally, you can't do that if there's a Warp Prism out, and Solar decides to shove forward and win game number 2. Alrighty, so that brings us to match point on Port Alexander LE. Another one of those new maps. Gotta say, I actually really like this one as well. I'm a big fan of the maps in general. I think they're... Like, initially I was a little hesitant, they didn't seem that great, but now that I've played a bunch of games on them, other than Stasis, okay, just forget about Stasis. Stasis is a pain in the butt, but like, these maps, like Kairos and Port Alexander, they're looking really solid and pretty standard overall. Once again, and I think this is like a pretty common thing in maps in 2018, you have several options for the third, so you can take the third over here, or you can take it over here. And depending on where you build it, you can completely change the dynamic of the mid-game. Because obviously if you take yours over here and your opponent takes their third over here, all of a sudden the distance between the bases isn't that long anymore. Whereas, you know, you get what I'm trying to say. Like there's a lot of walking potential, in particular for Protoss. And usually this is like kind of a cool thing as well in SC2. Since we're playing like the same maps for, I would say like 3-4 months, at least in competitive play. At some point, players will figure out the perfect way to open up on 3 bases. And then some players start mixing it up by taking the other third that is technically inferior instead. Just because it messes with their opponent so much. You have this like really cool meta map situation. It's nice. I really like it. Man, I sound like such a nerd. I'm glad I found my like clique of people online, man. That makes me... You guys don't mind it when I talk nerdy, okay? I used to do this at the dinner table when I was like 17. I was like, Mom... Let me tell you about how to get 99 wood cutting and like what trees you should cut in Lumbridge and I don't know where you would cut trees in RuneScape anymore, but let's just say my mom wasn't interested. Whereas like I know some of you, you know, some of you are. Alrighty, once again, really quick double hatch opener right here for Solar. He decides to go for the spawning pool still at a respectable time. He is still gonna get himself that gas up here eventually as well, obviously. But that is a pretty greedy opener. Doesn't really matter though if your opponent goes for that quick nexus on the low ground. Solar, apparently accepting the gentleman's agreement, decides to go for that Overlord Scout. Already though, he already did take 3 bases here, which obviously is a massive risk. If somehow, some way there was like a 1-base opener here for Drogo, this would have been game over already. But once more, right, you see the lack of the Warp Gate research there. It's going to start up right now. But this is enough time for Solar to know that it's a Stargate opener. I mean, it's really the only structure that requires this much gas. Twilight Council, 100 gas. Robotic Facility, 100 gas. Stargate, 150 gas. So it's immediately obvious right now for Solar that this is going to be that Stargate opener just by seeing the timing on that Cybernetics Core upgrade. And you can see, by the way, for those of you curious, the little lights, you know, they get dim and they get bright again after they started something in their research. But at this point, Solar should know exactly what is going on. The Adept though, ooh, this time around it is going to commit. It's likely just trying to see if it can hunt the drone. Look at Drogo there. Perfect timing here. He knows at what point that drone should be moving across. And actually... Oh, man. Yep, he is going to get a worker. Nicely done. 1 worker. That's better than no workers, right? Like, 1 worker kill actually does hurt Zerg just a little bit. You can already see, when you go for this really quick 3rd hatchery, Zerg has a hard time spending their larva. Because they need to make queens and whatnot just to stay safe. And you can see versus Chrono Boost, worker-wise, you can get yourself a lot of... probes out really early on. So Solar will figure out right here, okay, it is going to be that Stargate opener. There's going to be that Oracle as a follow-up once again. But worker-wise, right? Look at that. Protoss is looking really, really strong. Plus, of course, Zerg also sacrifice drones whenever they build buildings. So, for example, these Spore Crawlers that are coming up once again, they are indeed going to hurt them quite a bit. I kind of want to see some Swarm Host play. I would like to see some Swarm Host play. I think this map is really good for it. Because you don't have to walk that far, and like there's still some like, you know, if you launch the Locust from here, they could still easily reach this base, and there's like, you know, similar locations. Well, that's a little far, but yeah. There's like similar locations on other maps as well, but I think in general this map feels really good for Swarm Host play. It's like big enough, but not too big for the Swarm Host to be useful. Now this is a much more classic follow-up here. I'm curious to see if Drogo is going to go for once again the 5-minute 3rd base, and then the Archon drops as a follow-up. The Archon drops or lack thereof in the previous game, or I guess the lack of the War Prism really did hurt quite a bit. This is awkward. Whoa, 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 whoa. Was that Parker? Oh, whoa, whoa, not Parker, sorry. What was his name? Caster Park? I think that was Caster Park, the Korean StarCraft 2 announcer. Sometimes I wish I could speak Korean. It'd be awesome to be able to understand some of those voice packs, but also to be able to watch some of the StarCraft 2 tournaments over in Korea in their native language. Anyway, we do not see that Roach Warren here coming up. Once again, though, Forges coming up here for Drogo. I was going to say, double Forge seems a little greedy. He is indeed going to make a Forge, and then apparently he forgot that he already made one. And then instead he decided to go for the 1 Forge cancelled it, the 2nd one, and you know, you saw what happened. Anyway, Templar Archives is going to come up much quicker this time around, and we do now also see the Chrono Boost once again on that Robotics Facility. Obviously, not having the Zealot in the wall there hurt him a lot in that game number 1, or game number 2 rather, but not having the War Prism out though also felt a little bit funny. So normally, Archon drops already are out right now. You can see Solar is, yeah, you know, he's awkwardly making some roaches here. These roaches are mostly meant defensively, but he's putting them in locations where he's expecting Archons to potentially show up. But right now he saw the Immortal at the front, so he's likely gonna make the assumption that he's safe to once again make 8 of those drones. And that's exactly what we are seeing right now. Solar is gonna build himself up to that 66, 67-ish drone count, and that's 3 base, fully saturated, 6 gases. This is the Zerg sweet spot. And now we do see indeed that infestation pit coming up. So we may very well be seeing some of that swarm host play. I'm a big fan of the swarm host play. It's very difficult to do. If we do see it, I'll try and explain to you why it's hard and like what's complicated about it. It also could be a really quick hive. Quick hive though, not as common right now in the current meta. +1 missile does start up here for our Zerg player. And okay, yeah, 4 overloads coming up. So this is gonna be Swarmhost play. So Swarmhost, okay. So Swarmhost, there we go. 8 of them are coming up here. Swarmhost have this tendency to absolutely kill everything on the ground. However, they can only really fight like once every, what is it, like 45, 50 seconds or so. While their locusts are on cooldown, they absolutely do nothing. Like, they're like the stupidest unit while their locusts are off cooldown. And it's all about trying to bait and switch your opponent, if you are the Protoss, into activating the locust wave. So Drogo can most definitely clean up, you know, a couple of those waves with relative ease, but if he starts losing a couple of units here and there, like a few Zealots, maybe an Archon, maybe an Immortal, maybe a High Templar or 2, the potential is ridiculous of the Swarm Host. However, if he manages to bait the Locust out right over here, right, and then just simply walks away, then as soon as the Locusts run out, he counterattacks. There's a lot of powerful armies that just absolutely walk over Swarm Hosts. So here we go. Right now, he's trying to bait these locusts, and there we go. This is exactly what you want to do if you're the Protoss. Did you see that? So the Swarmhosts are out. These locusts have a killer instinct, and that's exactly what Drogo wants to do. Drogo is building up that army. Eventually, if he has Storm and he's got, like, you know, more Archons available, the locusts don't really deal any damage anymore. It's all about buying time right now if you are the Protoss player. He can easily counterattack if he really wants to right now. I kind of would like him to sit back for a little while longer, because you need to be out on the map. The thing is, if the locusts get activated over here and they push your buildings, they can snipe a nexus. You need to sort of force them to activate their locusts whenever you are, you know, fighting them in the middle of the map, far away from your bases. Love this fort base timing as well, actually, by Protoss. That's always going to be really useful as well in anticipation of him potentially losing the base. Once again, excellent force fields here. Really solid work by Drogo, but look, Solar is trying to force his opponent backwards, and Solar does want to activate the Locust Wave right around over here, I would imagine. There we go. And this is much more risky, because right now, Protoss is forced to fight some of those units. That's 1 Archon already popping right there. Actually, I think that was only really 1 Archon popping there, and we do... Yeah, 9 Zealots going down right now. We do see a couple Swarm Hosts also paying for that with their life. But that was excellent work though by Drogo. Like the first move out, I want to emphasize how important that was. If that first move out right over here did not happen, and Drogo was forced to fight the first Locust Wave right over here with like 2 or 3 Archons less, that wave would have absolutely murdered him. So that was a really well done engagement. Still though, he's not out of the water yet. Swarm Hosts, they do become more powerful the longer they stay alive. The more Locust Waves you get in, obviously, the more damage they can deal as well. And Solar is going to continue piling on the pressure. Now, this is good. He's got a big Roach Ravager-based army on the back of this as well. A lot of units are already being picked up. Obviously, it's mostly just Zealots for the time being, but Zealots are still really important. That 4th base, though, is already up and running right now for Drogo. And Solar, I mean, he's finally got himself the 4th hatchery up as well. It's not like so here's the thing, right? Sometimes you may look at the supply count at the bottom and be like, okay, Solar is clearly winning this. The thing is, Roach Ravager Swarm Host is like the most stupid, like supply heavy army you can find. This is his full army. Like this is like almost 200 supply if you know, subtract the amount of drones here. His army is really not that big. Whereas Drogo, he's playing that very Protoss-y army, right? He's got a beautiful army here that's very, very strong. And the more he gets, you know, or the closer he gets, rather, to that 200 supply count, the stronger this fight is going to be as well. Now, this is weird. This is really strange. Solar is going to activate the Locust Wave here. A couple Archons do get trapped. One of them apparently moved in that direction. Actually, another one will pay for this life right here as well. At the same time, a couple of Roaches actually made their way towards the natural. The Roach Ravager Bull now finds the 4th base as well. All of a sudden, we see Drogo forced to move across the map with the army that he's got. Keep in mind, there's no Warp Prism here, so he's not going to be able to reinforce this. Plus, strategic recoil is much smaller than it once was. Solar, all of a sudden, way over his opponent's bases. Sure, the 4th base might go down here for Solar, and that would be frustrating, but soon, the Locust will be off cooldown once again, and without reinforcements, this Protoss army is going to be in trouble. 4th Nexus now already ended up falling here as well. Natural completely being smashed here by Solar 2. Locusts are off cooldown. There we go. They're once again going to activate their Locust Wave. They're going to fly forward. Try and see if they can connect with this Archon Immortal-based army. Eventually, though, I think that Drogo should be able to recoil out of here. But he's still going to lose a couple units there. And actually, very few of them ended up staying alive. 32 probes in like the blink of an eye and apparently an Oracle. 32 probes there ended up going down. And this is where the Swarm Hosts are stupid strong. Right? Protoss is good when it comes to dealing with Swarm Hosts when they've got that big, maxed out army. Right now, the Swarm Host, I mean, if Swarm Hosts could grin, if they could grin, this would be the time. I mean, I kind of wish they would put like a smiley face, like an emoji on a Swarm Host. Because look, he's going to be able to activate the Locust Wave right now. Simply back up with the Swarm Host if he wants to once more. But right now, this Protoss army is forced to fight a lot of these Locusts. And it's a difficult situation to be in. Because once more, Drogo is going to have a hard time building up more and more of those units. He's not even saturating the double gas right now. That's a big mistake here. 4th Nexus, of course, was picked up as well, right? And that's gonna lower the amount of gas even more so. Now, I kind of like this. This is interesting. Solar decides to go for the Baneling switch. I'm not sure about that one. Banelings obviously can deal damage to Zealots, but there's really not that many Zealots remaining in his army. I feel like this is mostly going to be a gas-heavy army right now, right? Yeah, more High Templar are being warped in as well. If there's one unit that is good against Banelings, it's the Archon, obviously. Once again, Locust Wave being activated. Solar setting up a bit of a trap. Ooh, here we go. The Swarm is coming from every single side. The Locusts are going to try and land on it. Great pickup there by Drogo. He's going to try and save some of those units as well. Double Archons were picked up already. And actually, all things considered, I think that Drogo might be okay here. But he is once again going to be forced with his back against the wall. He needs to recoil out of here if he wants to stay alive. Instead, he's going to stand and fight. This is actually still a really strong Protoss army, though. That Immortal in the back still dealing the hurt. It's already got 8 kills as well. The Zealot Warp in here, as well as those Archons, are absolutely smashing this army. Woo! And Solar, all of a sudden, was forced to retreat. But once again, man, this is where the cost efficiency... I feel like I'm hammering on it a lot, but like these Swarmos, the key couple words are cost efficiency. They become stronger over time. If they manage to get a couple kills here and there, they're just going to be able to activate their Locust continuously. And right now, Solar isn't even activating all of them. He's only activating a couple of those waves, forcing the opponent away. This means, of course, that the uptime on the Locust is even bigger. This was more or less an all-in here for Drogo, right? Drogo doesn't have any economy anymore. I mean, he still has 3 bases, but his main and his natural are running very low. 3rd base doesn't have that much income in general. Solar has the 4th base retaken right now. He's only got actually 39 Harvests remaining, so it's not like he's out of the water yet, but I'm curious here, right? In low econ situations, Protoss needs to be the cost-efficient race, and look at the amount of resources lost here by Protoss. This is the Swarm Host at work. Now, the Archon drops, hey, they do happen. Okay, well, it's one Archon, one Immortal. They were like best friends since elementary school, and they're still, you know, they're still together. But, you know, while this could certainly still deal some damage, Solar is smashing the bases on the other side of the map. What an awesome series. That was really fun. Mass Muta, one Zealot not on hold position. And then, of course, the Swarm Host here in game number 3. I hope you enjoyed watching this match. If you did, make sure you hit that like button down below. And if you want to see more, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you get a notification as soon as I upload more. A special shout out to the Patreon supporters. You guys are awesome. Thank you very much. But for now, I want to thank you for watching. Have an amazing day. Do not forget to smile alright. And I will see you once again in the next one.